Vacations promise sunshine, escape, and unforgettable memories. But for some travelers, a trip meant for rest becomes the beginning of a nightmare. No goodbyes, no clues, no return. These disappearances leave families desperate for answers and investigators searching for truths hidden beneath years of silence. Here are the 5 people who disappeared while on vacation and were never found. Story 1. On New Year's Day in 2008, a 15-year-old Irish girl began a short walk home in Mijas Costa, Spain. It was a familiar route, one she had taken countless times before, but that night, she never arrived. Along those quiet streets, in a place where neighbors slept and the air was still, Amy Fitzpatrick vanished without a trace. Amy Louise Fitzpatrick was born on February 7th, 1992, in Dublin, Ireland. She grew up with her older brother Dean in a close-knit family that described her as bright, caring, and full of energy. She loved animals, reading, and spending time outdoors. In 2007, Amy's family moved from Ireland to Spain, hoping for a safer environment and a fresh start. Amy adjusted quickly. She made friends easily and enjoyed the warm climate and relaxed lifestyle. Friends remembered her as thoughtful and responsible, a young girl who rarely did anything without a reason. Although she was excited about her new life, she also missed the familiar comfort of home. On the evening of January 1st, 2008, Amy spent time with her friend Ashley Rose and Ashley's family in Mijas Costa, where she had been helping babysit Ashley's younger brother. At around 10 p.m., she said goodbye and began the walk home to her mother's apartment. It was a short, familiar path she had traveled many times. Amy never made it back at first. Her mother believed Amy had decided to stay overnight with her friend, something not entirely unusual. But by the next morning, when Amy was still missing, concern quickly turned to fear. She had no phone, no money, and no extra clothing with her. Nothing indicated she had planned to go anywhere except home. Local police launched a search. Officers canvassed the area, questioned neighbors, and deployed search dogs and helicopters. But the trail went cold almost immediately. No CCTV footage showed Amy walking along the route. No witnesses reported seeing her. Within minutes of leaving her friend's home, she simply disappeared. Authorities explored several possibilities. Some wondered whether Amy had run away, but this theory faded quickly. She left behind her belongings and had made no plans to leave. There was no indication she intended to disappear. Another theory considered the possibility that Amy encountered someone along her route. Investigators examined known individuals in the area, followed tips, and interviewed people multiple times. However, no evidence clearly pointed toward an abduction or confrontation. Conflicting witness statements and inconsistencies in early interviews added to the confusion. Over the years, both Spanish and Irish authorities reviewed the case multiple times, but every promising lead eventually dissolved. Searches along footpaths, empty lots, and urban areas yielded nothing. The investigation stretched across countries and agencies, yet no credible trace of Amy was ever found. Amy's mother, Audrey Fitzpatrick, has spent years advocating for her daughter. She has organized searches, spoken publicly, and pushed for renewed investigations. Vigils, interviews, and community efforts have kept Amy's name alive despite the lack of answers. In 2013, tragedy struck again when Amy's older brother, Dean, passed away, leaving the family with even fewer people to share the burden of their loss. Still, Amy's mother continues to search, determined to keep hope alive. What if someone walking or driving that night saw something they didn't realize was important? And what if the key to Amy's disappearance still lies hidden along the short, silent path she took home, waiting for the right person to come forward? Story 2. On a warm May morning in 2000, 29-year-old travel writer Claudia Kirschhoch stepped onto the soft, white sands of Negril, Jamaica. She had arrived at the beach's resort only days earlier, an unexpected detour after her original assignment in Cuba was canceled. She planned to gather notes, relax, and make the most of a last-minute change in plans. But within hours, she would vanish without a trace. No clues in the sand, no belongings missing, no signs of where she went or who she may have encountered. Her disappearance became one of Jamaica's most haunting travel mysteries. Claudia Ann Kirschhoch was born on February 9, 1971, in Morristown, New Jersey. Raised by her parents, Fred and Mary Ann, she grew up with a strong sense of compassion and a love for exploration. Her family remembered her as adventurous, gentle, and deeply curious about the world. She graduated from the University of Colorado and eventually became a travel writer and researcher for Pham, a job that allowed her to experience different cultures, something she truly loved. Claudia wasn't careless. She was known to be responsible and independent. She planned her trips thoroughly, stayed aware of her surroundings, and remained in constant communication with her family. Jamaica wasn't supposed to be part of her itinerary, but it became her final known destination. On May 24th, 2000, after her flight to Cuba was canceled, Claudia and another journalist were rerouted to Jamaica. She checked into the beach's resort in Negril, where she spent the next couple of days walking the coastline, speaking with staff, and gathering notes for future articles. On the morning of May 27th, she was seen walking along the beach wearing a swimsuit and carrying only a towel. She looked calm and relaxed. That was the last confirmed sighting of her. When she missed scheduled meetings the next day, co-workers became concerned. Resort staff entered her room, and what they found deepened the mystery. Her passport, wallet, luggage, notebook, and even her phone were still inside. Nothing was packed, nothing was moved. It looked like she had planned to return soon, but Claudia never did. Authorities launched a massive search. Resort employees combed the beach, local police scanned the shoreline, and helicopters and boats searched up and down the coast. Yet no clothing, no footprints, and no physical evidence were ever found. Early in the investigation, attention turned to a resort employee who reportedly interacted with Claudia shortly before she disappeared. Witnesses said he showed unusual interest in her, and he later failed a polygraph test. But without physical evidence, police could not pursue charges, leaving the lead unresolved and heavily debated. Another theory suggested she may have gone swimming and drowned, but the sea was calm. Claudia was an experienced traveler, and no body ever surfaced. Local authorities and seasoned swimmers questioned whether this explanation made sense at all. In the days that followed, Claudia's parents flew to Jamaica. They walked the beach themselves, interviewed staff, searched nearby areas, and pleaded for answers. Despite constant pressure, the investigation stalled. Nearly every promising lead ended in a dead end. For weeks, her parents stayed in Negril, hoping that a witness, a clue, or even a small detail would surface. But as time passed, the case went cold. No new evidence emerged. No trace of Claudia was ever found. Her family never gave up. They worked with private investigators, pushed for further review of resort employees, and tried to re-examine every possible scenario. Claudia's mother once said she woke up each morning hoping for a phone call, any call. Her father continued to speak publicly about the case, determined to keep her story alive. Today, more than 2 decades later, the disappearance of Claudia Kirschhoch remains unsolved. A young journalist walked along a sunny beach and simply never came back. What if someone saw something that morning but didn't know its importance? And what if the truth behind Claudia's disappearance has been hiding in plain sight all these years? Story 3. In the middle of a warm Caribbean afternoon in May 2005, Pham and Tran were seen relaxing on the open deck of the Carnival Destiny cruise ship. Moments later, they vanished without a sound. Their belongings remained in place. The sea showed no signs of struggle, and what happened next became one of the most unsettling disappearances ever reported on a cruise ship. Pham, 71, and Tran, 67, began their life together in Vietnam, married in 1956. They lived through the devastating Vietnam War, which eventually forced them to make a perilous escape by boat. For nearly 2 weeks, they drifted with minimal food and water, but against all odds, they survived. Eventually, the couple settled in Southern California, raising children, building a life, and becoming valued members of their community. By 2005, both were retired, enjoying the quiet life they had earned after decades of hardship. They were devoted parents and grandparents, well-loved and respected by those around them. That year, their daughter and granddaughter surprised them with a 7-night Caribbean cruise aboard the Carnival Destiny, a Mother's Day gift meant to celebrate family, relaxation, and time together. They were excited and grateful, looking forward to a peaceful voyage. The Destiny launched in 1996 as one of the largest passenger ships at the time, departed from San Juan, Puerto Rico, with a route through the Caribbean islands. On May 12, 2005, midway through the cruise, Pham and Tran were seen relaxing on the deck. Later that afternoon, their daughter came to get them for an onboard event, but when she arrived at their usual spot, they were gone. At first, she assumed they had stepped away briefly, but then she noticed her mother's book still open beside the chair and her purse untouched nearby. Alarm set in. Their belongings were never left unattended. She searched the surrounding decks, asked passengers nearby, and retraced potential paths the couple could have taken. When she still could not find them, she alerted cruise staff immediately. The crew began a shipboard search, while the daughter contacted her brother on the mainland, explaining that something was seriously wrong. Hours passed. No sign of Pham or Tran was found anywhere on the vessel. Shockingly, it took 4 hours before authorities contacted the Coast Guard. The Netherlands Coast Guard responded first, as the ship was between Aruba and Barbados. Despite the family's pleas, the Destiny continued its scheduled route instead of returning to the last known location of the couple. The search lasted only 13 hours before being called off. No clothing, no bodies, no debris. Nothing was ever recovered. Investigators considered the usual possibilities: accident, foul play, or voluntary disappearance. None seemed likely. An accidental overboard was improbable. The railings were high, and the couple had no history of risky behavior. Foul play left no trace, noise, or witnesses. Voluntary disappearance made no sense for 2 devoted parents traveling with family. The delayed response and the ship's refusal to turn back left even more questions. How could 2 experienced adults disappear without a trace on a crowded cruise ship in the middle of the day? For their daughter and granddaughter, the vacation turned into a nightmare. Back home, relatives held vigils, pursued searches, and pushed for deeper investigations. But every lead ended in uncertainty. The family remains desperate for answers, hoping that some overlooked clue or eyewitness account might finally emerge. What if something happened on that deck that no one noticed in time? And what if the truth about Pham and Tran remains hidden somewhere in the waters the Destiny sailed past that afternoon? Story 4. In March 2025, a spring break trip to the Dominican Republic turned into a terrifying mystery. Sudiksha Konanki, a 20-year-old pre-med student, stepped onto the beach for a walk during the early hours, and moments later, she vanished. The shoreline, filled with tourists and night revelers, became the last place anyone saw her alive. How could a young woman disappear in broad daylight with friends nearby and leave no trace? The circumstances remain deeply puzzling. Sudiksha Konanki was born on December 13, 2004, to Subarayudu and Sridevi Konanki. She grew up in South Riding, Virginia, and became a permanent U.S. resident in 2006, a student at Thomas Jefferson High School for science and technology. She went on to study biology and chemistry at the University of Pittsburgh, aspiring to a career in medicine. Friends and family described her as bright, careful, and responsible. She was close to her parents, committed to her studies, and cautious when traveling. Sudiksha had visited multiple destinations for school or leisure, always prioritizing safety and keeping in regular contact with those she loved. Sudiksha arrived in Punta Cana on March 3, 2025, for spring break with friends, staying at Hotel Rio Repubblica. In the early hours of March 6th, she joined a group at a nightclub and later walked along the beach. Around 5:55 a.m., most friends returned to the hotel. Sudiksha remained with Joshua Rebe, a 22-year-old college senior from Minnesota. Rebe later said they swam briefly and were hit by a wave that pulled them into deeper water. He, a trained lifeguard, held her under his arm while trying to return both to shore. Exhausted and disoriented, he eventually vomited on the sand. When he looked again, Sudiksha had walked or drifted away into the water and was never seen again. Surveillance confirmed Rebe returned to his room hours later. Despite immediate search and rescue efforts, no trace of Sudiksha was found. Authorities in the Dominican Republic launched a large-scale investigation. They conducted interviews, reviewed surveillance footage, and organized searches along the beach. Rebe was questioned extensively, first without legal counsel and later with attorneys present. Investigators documented his account in detail. Theories ranged from accidental drowning to potential foul play, yet no evidence conclusively supported any scenario. Sudiksha's personal items remained on the beach, and no witnesses reported seeing her leave. The mystery of her final moments remains unresolved. Her parents, Subarayudu and Sridevi Konanki, faced the unimaginable. They worked with authorities, requested legal recognition of her presumed death, and shared public appeals for information. The family continues to honor Sudiksha's memory while advocating for awareness and updates on the investigation. The community, friends, and fellow students have offered support, sharing in the hope that answers might eventually emerge. What if Sudiksha never made it out of the water that morning? And what if the true events of her final moments remain hidden from view, just beyond reach of those searching? Story 5. In 1928, a newlywed couple set out on what should have been the adventure of a lifetime, a honeymoon rafting trip through the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. Glen and Bessie Hyde were experienced, prepared, and ambitious, but somewhere along the 277-mile journey, they vanished completely. How could two people traveling together on a known route with proper supplies simply disappear? The mystery of their final moments has remained unsolved for nearly a century. Glen Hyde was born on December 9, 1898, in Twin Falls, Idaho. A farmer and experienced rafter, he had spent years navigating rivers and hoped to set a speed record on the Colorado. Ambitious and adventurous, Glen planned the honeymoon with high expectations. Bessie Louise Haley, born December 29, 1905, in Parkersburg, West Virginia, had recently divorced and married Glen on April 10, 1928. Though not as skilled as her husband, Bessie was enthusiastic, eager to join him on the groundbreaking adventure. If successful, she would have been the first woman to navigate the entire Colorado River. The couple met aboard a passenger ship to Los Angeles in 1927 and quickly connected. Their honeymoon plan promised excitement, challenge, and a historic accomplishment. In October 1928, Glen and Bessie set out for the Grand Canyon. According to Bessie's journal, the early portion of the trip was calm and enjoyable. On November 16th, they stopped at the Kolb brothers' studio. Emery Kolb recalled Bessie expressing fatigue and frustration with Glen, who had grown mean and pushy. Kolb offered them rest, but Glen declined. Before leaving, Emery photographed the couple. Noticing his daughter's dress, Bessie sighed. "I wonder if I shall ever wear pretty shoes again." It is likely Kolb's daughter was among the last people to see them alive. Weeks passed, and the couple failed to arrive in California as scheduled. Their last confirmed location remained along the Colorado River. By December 19, 1928, Glen's father, R.C. Hyde, organized searches at the Grand Canyon, with Emery Kolb assisting. Weeks of effort produced only the couple's intact wooden raft at mile 237. Supplies remained secured, and Bessie's diary was found safely tucked in her backpack. Beyond this, no belongings or bodies were recovered. Investigators and historians have considered multiple possibilities. The couple may have capsized in rapids, fallen overboard in a calm section, or experienced an accident during routine navigation. Interpersonal tension may have contributed to a misstep, yet no eyewitness accounts, no additional belongings, and no bodies were ever discovered. The lack of physical evidence left authorities and family with frustration and heartbreak. Searches, public appeals, and local reports could not provide clarity. Bessie's diary and the photograph at Kolb's studio became the few remaining connections to the couple's final known moments. Glen's father endured weeks of uncertainty while awaiting their arrival in California. Relatives and friends followed the investigation closely, hoping for signs of survival or explanation. The mystery persisted, drawing attention from historians, authors, and adventurers who chronicled the story in books, documentaries, and local lore. What if Glen and Bessie survived longer than anyone imagined, only to vanish silently into the canyon? And what secrets do the Colorado River rapids still hold about their final moments, nearly a century later? These disappearances leave unanswered questions, haunting the places where they vanished: beaches, rivers, and remote landscapes. Loved ones continue to hope, remember, and search for clues. Though time passes, their stories endure, reminding us of lives interrupted and mysteries unsolved. This is Vanished Stories, where the missing are never forgotten.